Okay? The thing that makes it a little bit difficult is that basically y'all learned really 3 grades plus a little. 6th, 7th, and 8th, plus a little bit of algebra, just because it's going to make it easier for me. So like some of the things y'all learned in our proportionality and slope unit, not necessarily 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, but what I want to make sure is that you understand exactly what is contained specifically within the 7th grade. We'll talk about kind of the big picture stuff. We'll talk about the details. If as I'm going through them, you're like, hey, I don't really know what that means, then you can ask a question. I can kind of walk through an example with you. And you can make a list if you wish.
So are we starting from the very beginning? No.
What do you mean? No, we're not doing it's not sequential.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving you a list of the concepts. That's it. We're not doing it's just a list of everything that you're expected to kind of understand from the net.
Oh,
okay? Okay, let's start with some financial stuff. You have to understand how to determine net worth. You have to know how to determine net worth, Devin.
assets minus liabilities.
Assets minus liabilities, right?
Well, the difference.
And make sure that you understand what is considered an asset and what is considered a liability. Asset is anything that has value. A liability is anything that you owe. A negative, basically. Yeah, debts. That's a very good way to put it. Debts. So you have to understand net worth. You have to understand how to calculate both volume and area of three-dimensional figures. Now, it's important that you understand, when you're talking about surface area, I don't know if y'all noticed, but on that practice sheet, you notice that, and on your formula sheet, you notice that they don't use formulas for surface area. Right? And it's because they will lay out the surface, they will give you surface area in such a way that you basically have to find an area of every side and add them all up.
We're not going to have to. That's what it's stuff like
Yeah, you will not have the 8th grade formulas.
You remember it, you use it.
Now, on volume, you basically have to understand the volume of two different things. You have to understand the volume of prisms and pyramids. Pyramids and pyramids. And basically their formulas are very, very similar. The volume of a prism is big B times H. What does big B stand for? Area of the base. And pyramids are 1/3 area of the base times the height. Okay? So volume and surface area.
And the height is the height.
Height. It's the distance between the bases, very good, or the distance between the base and that vertex for a pyramid, right? Let's see. I'm going to come back to proportions in just a moment. You have to understand angle relationships. Angle relationships. Now, by angle relationships, it's not something crazy. It's basically what's the sum of the interior angles of a triangle? What's the sum of the interior angles of a quadrilateral? Any quadrilateral, the sum is 360. Any triangle, the sum is 180. Okay? Understand how to differentiate between types of triangles. Types of triangles, yes, sir?
Are we going to need to know the formula of what you said, or are we going to find the actual area?
There is no. Well, what do you mean?
Because, like, on the review thing, it showed a triangle, and two of the measurements, there was one that was unsimplified, and there was the other one that was, and then there was a blank measurement, and you had to pick the equation that best represents.
Yeah, they'll do that kind of stuff. Absolutely. Question. Okay. So net worth, volume, area, angle relationships, types of triangles. How to solve both equations and inequalities. Equations and inequalities for a particular variable. Now, some things to kind of keep in mind. Remember, equations and inequalities basically solve the same way, right? You go through the exact same process. The only difference is when you divide by a negative or multiply by a negative, what do you have to do with the inequality? Flip the sign. That is guaranteed to be on there no matter what. Okay? When you divide or multiply by a negative, you have to flip the sign on the inequalities. Okay? When you divide, so for example, if you have this, Negative 4x plus 3 is less than 13. 13. Let's say it's 13, right? So what would we do first? We do this. Subtract 3 from both sides, which gives you negative 4x is less than 10. Then you divide both sides by negative 4, which gives you x is greater than negative 2.5. You flip the symbol. You flip the inequality symbol. When you divide by a negative to solve, you flip the inequality symbol.
And it's not when you're dividing, it's not when you're dividing by a regular number, but you're dividing, never mind.
When you're dividing or multiplying. Now, I'll show you something that sometimes gets kids. Watch this. What about when you have this? Negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to negative 5, right? So again, we're going to solve. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides. That gives us negative, oh wait, let's do positive 2x. That way it's not. So we have 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to negative 5. We subtract 3 from both sides, right? So we have 2x is greater than or equal to negative 5 minus 3. Negative 8. Now, what would you do to get rid of the divide by 2? So even though you're dividing a negative, it doesn't switch. You're not dividing by a negative. You're not dividing by a negative. Okay? Does that make sense? So that's inequalities and equations. Remember how you write equations from words. Remember when you're talking about like something times x plus or minus something is like y equals, right? Remember this guy is the per or each guy. And this guy is the starting point, the flat rate, whatever that thing ends up being. The amount that doesn't change.
Constant.
Yeah, it's a constant. Very good hand. Does anybody know when you're reading a word whether you know if it's an equation or an inequality? Beth?
An equation will usually have an equal sign somewhere in it.
It's a word problem.
It's a word. Okay.
Yeah.
In equations, it would say this, and then if it was an inequality, it would say at least.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In an equation, the equal sign will be represented by the words is or totals.
Oh, you're talking word
The
problems.
that's why I said word problems twice. And the inequality sign will be done by at least, at most, those kinds of things. Okay. Know about how do you tell if a relationship is proportional? Both from a graph and a table and whatever, Cameron?
For a graph, it has to go through the origin and linear.
Perfect. It has to be linear and through the origin. From a table, how do you tell?
Find if k is equal to.
Find k if k is constant. If y divided by x is constant every time except the 0, 0 place. Find the value of k. And what do we call k?
Constant proportionality.
Constant of proportionality. It's how you write the equation, because the equation is y equals k times x. Okay? Y equals k times x. All right, and honestly, we're just about done.
That's it.
And in
No,
an
we're
equation,
almost.
in an equation, it's not proportional. It's plus proportional.
That's very good. If you have that constant that Jen was talking about, remember the minute you have a constant, it's no longer proportion. It's still linear, but it's no longer proportion. Okay? Okay, so now let's talk about proportions in general. Now, proportions, guys, I'm here to tell you, will be everywhere on this test. Now, I'll give you some examples. Similar figures. You solve missing sides of similar figures using proportions. Okay? Oh my gosh, crunchy munchy.
Oh, I'm Elvis. Okay.
Lips. Lips! Hold up! I'm going to crush your Cheetos.
Cheetos.
Okay?
I don't see those.
Okay.
Not on a good day.
Does anyone know what I mean by similar figures?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Figures that are like some.
Yes. Now, remember, if you end up, if they say the two figures are similar and they're set up like this, what should you do before you should turn them before you set up a proportion? Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, turn them before you set up proportions. Unit rates. Unit rates is where they say it's like $12.35 for 18 ounces. What's the unit rate? The unit rate would be per 1 ounce. So when you set up your proportion, you end up with 12.35 over 18 equals X over 1. Okay, remember, unit rate is per 1 pound, per 1 ounce, per 1 gallon, per 1 whatever. Unit rate. And it's set up using the proportion. That's exactly right. And remember when you solve proportions, you look from right to left to right, then you simplify from left to right, and then you cross multiply at the end of all that stuff. A couple of other things that we didn't cover in great detail, but you'll see nonetheless under proportions. Measurement conversion. When you're converting inches to feet or kilometers to meters. Now the cool thing is if you look on your formula sheet, under grade 7, on one side is all your measurement stuff. If they say, for example, in 3.25 gallons, how many quarts are there? Well, what's on your sheet is the 1 gallon to 4 quarts. So on your sheet, you have 1 gallon over 4 quarts, and then you set it up equal to 3.25 gallons over X number of quarts. Yeah, and then it's still a proportion problem. Libby?
Whenever they do the test, what will they mostly use as the measurement for distances?
They will mix it up.
Oh.
I don't know the answer to that. I will tell you this, by the way. When you're finding area and volume and all those things, the very first thing I want you guys to check is make sure the unit of measurement is consistent throughout the object. Remember I tricked you guys on a couple of those things. Well, it would be like in feet, and then one was in inches.
That's what you do it.
Yeah. You have to make sure they're all the same unit of measure before you start finding volume or area or whatever.
Yeah, and a lot of us didn't realize it.
I know.
Because we thought you would be nice.
Well, that was silly.
You're perfect circle.
I really do good circle.
Very good.
I know myself, I'm a circle expert. Okay, remember parts of a circle: radius, diameter, and circumference. There's a mathematical relationship. To get from radius to diameter, it's times 2. Times 5, very good. And then to go backwards, it's just the opposite math. I will. So make sure you understand the parts of a circle. They will ask you to find, here's one. They love where they have you find area of a circle, but instead of a full circle, they give you a quarter circle or a half circle.
Oh, yeah. I hate when they do that.
Now, when that happens, I'll let you copy this. Say they gave you a measurement that looked like this. And they said that this was 3 inches. And they said, find the area represented by this. What you should do is pretend it's a full circle, which the area of a full circle is pi r squared. So you plug it, and then at the end, divide by 4, because it's 1/4 of that number.
But then what they'll also do is they'll make it not look like 1/4.
Yep, that's exactly right.
I like another shape to it.
Yeah. And I see. Oh, under proportions, so how do you find percents of numbers? But percents is still a proportion. When they have you find tax, here's one. When they have you find the total price of something, including tax, remember you have to find the tax percent and then add it to the original. Sometimes they have you find the tax, which is just the percent of a number. Sometimes they have you find the total price after tax, so you have to find the tax and then add it to your original.
Will there
So just like there.
ever be like you have to find the percent of like a sale?
Yes. So remember, if it's a discount, you take it off the price. If it's tax, you add it to the price. What do you do with a tip? To your bill. You add it to your bill. Yeah, you add it to your bill. Yeah, it's a lot like tax. Yes, ma'am.
Will we need to know the formula for the area of a sphere, the volume of a sphere?
Nope, it's not a thing. The only volumes you have to know are prisms and pyramids.
Yay!
And we need to know the surface area of basic gauge.
Well, here, I'll read to you here's what's on the STAAR 7 reference sheet. You have to know the slope-intercept form of an equation, y equals mx plus b. It says constant of proportionality has the formula for that on the formula sheet that you get. Y equals k equals y divided by x. It gives you the circumference formula for a circle. It gives you the area of a triangle, rectangle, parallelogram, trapezoid. So remember the area of a trapezoid and a circle. It gives you the volume of a prism and a pyramid. It gives you the estimation for pi. It gives you the distance formula. Has anybody ever seen the distance formula? Distance equals rate times time.
Yeah, we learned
And y'all
that.
been learning that in science, right?
No, we stopped.
But it won't be like an advanced thing. It'll literally just say calculate the distance if the person's going this fast in this amount of time. But it gives you the formula on your formula sheet. Simple interest and compound interest. I equals PRT is simple interest. Compound is A equals P times 1 plus the rate to the time. It will say compound or simple interest. Let's just plug it in. What does P stand for? Principal. What does the R stand for? Rate as a decimal. Rate as a decimal.
When you get it, you carry it like this.
Yeah.
In years.
And time in years. Very good. Time in years. Remember that the simple interest formula calculates the interest. The compound is total. So if they want the interest for compound, you have to do the formula and then subtract it from the principal because it calculates the entire thing. Okay? And by the way, that's the entire formula sheet except for on one side, they give you all the measurement stuff. That's pounds and inches and feet and yards and blah, blah, blah. All right? I'm sorry. Doc Jackson ran out of Cheetos. Everyone give them all. All right. Last thing. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, the entirety of basically 7th grade. Everything else is going to be kind of problem solving, but I will tell you this, and then I'll let you kind of chill out the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Fine. She will not like that one. They're doing way more prep than we are.
Yeah.
Maybe do it like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, but most of the teachers only hire STAAR and make it look like it's
Well, I think sometimes we cause there to be more anxiety than is really necessary.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay, but I will tell you this, as you're going through the test, there still will be questions that you don't read. When you read it, you're like, you won't know it. Okay? Remember, I want you going through that process of practicing. I want you practicing rating questions 1, 2, or 3. A 1 question is like you read it and you just instantly know the answer. It's like instant. A number 3 question is you read it and 1 of 2 things happens. Either you don't get it, there's maybe a term you're unfamiliar with, or you know how to do it, but it's going to be like a crud ton of work, like a lot of work. Like one of those questions where you're going to have to do so much writing, you're going to be tired at the end.
Yeah.
So in a 50-question test, you'll end up with about 10 number 1 questions, about 10 number 3 questions, and you'll end up with about 30 number 2 questions. Number 2 questions are just normal. It's like you read it and you don't instantly know the answer, but you're like, I can figure this one out. Got this. Okay? Do not try a number 3 question on your first run through a test, guys. Just don't. Because they are counting on you being a rule follower. I need you to second one. They're counting on you doing number 1, then doing number 2, then doing number 3. That's what kids do. And around 7, 8, or 9, on the algebra test, the algebra your student just took, it was number 8. There was a number 3 question sitting there at number 8 out of 62 questions. And some of my kids listened to this part, and some of the kids jumped right into it, and man, it was not a good thing. So if you get to a number 3 question, you have to go walk away from it. It's not going to run off the paper. It's not going away. You just come back to it after you get through the test. Then what was your question, babe?
Like for the reading, how you like the dictionary thing for math, you can use it by like.
You cannot use the dictionary for math.
So so I know, because like that would kind of.
Yeah, we have dictionaries and the STAAR available for the reading test on Tuesday, but you may not even ask for them. You may always ask for them. That's when I go, I cannot answer that question. Just do your best. I cannot answer that
It's so
question.
annoying to say
Just
that.
do your best. I try to change the inflection to make it interesting, but I basically say something.
No, you can do it. I cannot answer the question.
Now that's my question, but do your best. Good luck. Yes.
Do you have an actual working megaphone? Because I tried that one over there. It did not work.
It does not work, you're correct. And if you think that I will put a working megaphone out available for sixth graders, you have lost your mind.
Why did I say that?
So the answer is yes, I have a working megaphone, and the answer will be no, you may not get it. Okay? But this one's kind of like art, because I don't know if you know this or not, but it's like a duck.
Hey.
Oh!
Art.
Oh my god! That's good. And it has a weird music. Oh my
What?
god.
I don't even. Okay. So, yes,
The duck is smoking.
the duck is doing something.
Oh.
Okay. So, listen up, last thing. So 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Get some rest the night before. Don't just bring crap snacks. Okay? Bring some, I mean, it's a long time. Y'all used to eating your lunches at 11 o'clock in the morning. You will not be eating until like 1:30 almost. That's a long time from 8:45 all the way to 1:30 without food. So bring me some snacks. I would bring a refillable water bottle or a water cup. That's why I just have a cup, because I just got a water fountain filled up and I need water. Okay? I wouldn't bring, I mean, you can bring these, but just don't that dry. Okay? But that's basically it. So we'll get to the math test on Monday. We'll get to the reading test on Tuesday. And then you'll go into your rotations. I am going to look up your rotations, and I'll be able to get that to you before the end of class. Yeah. And what was yours, Andrew?
I just remembered this. At the beginning of the year, remember when everyone wanted one? We never did that challenge. Where everyone, the whole class does that challenge. We never did that.
Well, like half of this class was doing.
I know, no one even wants to.
We gotta make sure.
Okay, so really quickly,
Let's do another thing.
on a trapezoid, just to remind you, on a trapezoid, every quadrilateral, parallelograms, squares, or rectangles are basically based on type, find area, based on type. The problem with the trapezoid is that it has really two bases and they're different sizes. So you have to find the average. Now, on your formula sheet, it tells you that this is the formula.
Yes.
I don't use this one. An alternative to that is simply base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2 times the height. Either one is a valid formula to find the area of the trapezoid. You're basically averaging these and then multiplying times the height. Please don't fall for that thing where you use a diagonal for height. You will never use a diagonal for height. You just will not.
Yeah, that's
Okay?
If they give you the diagonal, you just have to use the Pythagorean theorem.
Pythagorean theorem is 8th grade. It's not 7th. You will not use the Pythagorean theorem. Yeah, that's why I wanted to go over these concepts. I want you to understand, this is it. This is 7th grade. If I didn't list it, it's not 7th grade.
Wow.
Okay?
That's what's up with it.
Yeah.
But you don't
Now,
have like a week. You did
yeah.
We did
Well,
that
and so what that means is this, and I'll leave you with this. It means, though, do not go in cocky and do not go very fast. One of my smartest kids, I'm giving an algebra test today, and one of my smartest girls, who was one of y'all last year, she's a 7th grader in algebra, probably one of the brightest I've got. She made the lowest grade on the test today. She made the lowest grade on the test in the second period. And it's because I guarantee she didn't study. She messed around during the review, and then during the test, she finished lightning fast. She paid attention, she didn't read it, she made 63. By the way, the class average is 89, she made 63. So what I'm getting at is on the test on Monday, it's not a race. I don't care if you finish in 27 minutes. I care whether you get 100% or 99% or 95%. So slow down. Make absolutely certain you understand the question. In fact, I would read the question first, not beginning to end. I would find the freaking question mark and go back to the question word and read it, because it'll tell you what they're wanting you to find. And then you can work into the question. Andrew?
Is that 1 equals M plus B?
It is. Yeah, and this is, remember, y equals mx plus b is on your formula sheet.
So we're doing slope.
Yeah. Some slopes, yeah. Okay, any questions, Pete?
Slope.
Other than that, just make sure you're all packed up and good to go, and don't make sure the rest of that.